Hey, wonderful people. Let me show you something. That's something I'm going to show you is the Form 8832. Someone wanted to know how it's filled out and figured it's about time it's shown. Many have heard about this form, but there's a trick in this form when it comes to the wording. All these IRS forms have instructions to them. Instructions and the year of revision. Whenever forms are used, tax forms or not, always pay attention to the revision year. Some older revision years will benefit you with the language, others won't. The 8832 is the same way, no different than some other form. So I always implore people to read these instruction forms. Purpose of form. An eligible entity uses Form 8832. Let's pause there. Question you should first ask as you read this is, what do they mean by eligible entity? Eligible entity is any entity that has something called EIN. That is what makes the entity eligible. The existence of an EIN, because the employee identification number of that entity is what's used to identify that entity itself. According to IRS, will keep it. And in fact, when you look at the face of this 8832 form, it would ask you for the EIN of the entity that's been classified and the entity to which it is being merged with. It asks you right here. It also asks you right here, identifying number of owner, identifying number of the one to which is doing the election. In other words, the EIN is what qualifies whether the entity is eligible or not, because that is the main medium or the main sequence of algorithm that's used to actually identify it. When they say everyone is a number, so and so, well, that's the highlight here when it comes to the nature of business. The EIN is what makes it an eligible entity. So let's not just read past it and presume or not even look at it and have it somehow just be floating in the air as to what eligible entity could be. That's what it is, just so it's clear. An eligible entity uses Form 8832. What is Form 8832? Form 8832 is a form called Entity Classification Election. An eligible entity uses Form 8832 to elect how it will be classified for federal tax purposes. In other words, whatever you put here, this first line, is the entity that's elected. It wants to decide how it is going to be classified for what. When you speak of the IRS and all these forms, it's for one purpose and one purpose only. So whatever entity's name goes here, which is the one that you put under the umbrella of protection, this entity is the one that is elected to be protected when it comes to its tax status. Hence, what type of EIN is issued. What type of EIN, what type of entity, what type of CP 575 determines the taxable status of said entity. The name that you're given it is quite irrelevant, but more so the type of secret 575, aka the type of EIN, aka the tax status attached to said name that you're given it. The name you're given it is just something cool that you think you can make up to identify what you call a business. But as far as IRS is concerned, the only thing significant is that tax status of that, whatever name. And whoever creates such a problem always creates a solution called due process, because these people are masters at arts and craft of mind game and reality itself, as much as people hate them. Therefore, they know that in order for the lithic nature of karma to not affect them, they always have to create a way out. Whether or not the everyday man knows about it, it's their problem. They would always say, we created the solution for you. We created all the language. We even created the instructions. Did you read it? Even worse, they won't even ask you that question. They'll just look at you, nod their head, and go, all right, go get his shit. Take his shit and make him a slave. Why should they explain these things to you? But don't worry, that's why you're here. That's why I'm here. Someone has to do it. This whole thing going on in today's world, and that has always occurred so long as humans exist in this thing called Earth, in summary, is what fuckery is. Fuckery can be good, fuckery can be bad, based on whoever's perceiving and interpreting it. As far as I'm aware, this fuckery going on, I don't consider it good or bad. My thing is, just be aware of how the world works and put it to use. Be the architect of your own life. An eligible entity uses Form 8832 to elect how it will be classified for federal tax purpose. What are the examples of those classifications? They tell you. As a corporation, a partnership, or an entity disregarded as separate from its owner. See this tertiary form of classification? That's what we're here. One thing I'd like to now bring your attention to is a caveat they provide to you as to who does not need to fill out 8832. It's self-explanatory. It tells you the list of who must file. Then it tells you, do not file this form for an eligible entity, meaning an entity that has an EIN, that is tax exempt under 501A. This 501A is the beginning point of what leads you to 508 entity. So if the entity already has a tax exempt status, to which 8832 is classifying the tax status of an entity, then there's no need to fill out an 8832 because the origin of the entity itself was done properly to not qualify for tax. So now the question is, who would be using the 8832? The 8832 is applicable if you're classifying as legas, aka that social security number, which is a creature of law, under the protection of the express trust. Or if it is not clear, let's make it a bit clearer. The prefix dis, this word form an element of Latin origin, meaning lack of. In other words, not, meaning dishonest. We all know honest has an element of being upright, has an element of being straightforward, has an element of being truthful. And we also know that when someone is referred to as being dishonest, that means they're not that thing. When you disregard something as separate, you're saying that it is not regarded, it is not pertaining to it being separate from its owner. Word form an element. You'd be surprised most of these things like infinite banking and insurance, a lot of people use it a mundane way too, because there are different types of insurance. There are about 6 or 7 different types of insurance. People use it in those mundane ways. There's postal banking. People can use it in mundane ways. There's a birth certificate. People can use it in the mundane ways as a secondary form of ID, right? There's 8832. People can use it in a mundane way. But all these things has a polarity or a higher vibratory essence to them that's sitting right in front of you, right in black and white, that is meant for you to use. And the ones who create it use it to their benefit because these are the same forms that wealthy people use to keep their wealth. But this same form is the same form that the everyday man also use when they have LLCs. We're better. So let's do better. If we want to speak about generational wealth and we're not speaking about things of this nature, we're still lying to ourselves. So let's be honest here and be cutthroat and straightforward. And take a step at a time in providing clarity. Form 8832. Revisions, title, wherever it is. I usually put the complete 24-minute videos posted on the Patreon page. Take care. Best of luck.